Hey there guys, how are you today and welcome to another episode of I Ask Twitter. Yes, this is the series you all love where I ask a question on Twitter about Formula 1 and with the answers I receive from all of you, I make a video. So, this week I asked my Twitter followers to tell me 3 things that they want to see happen at the 2019 Azerbaijan Grand Prix, which as we know is taking place this weekend. So, let's get straight into it. Josh Stocks responds, chaos, chaos, and more chaos. And so obviously, in terms of what he says there, we know Baku has been pretty exciting in the last 2 seasons. So we have 2 out of the 3 races there so far. We've had 2 really great races and 1 really boring race. I think 2018 was super chaotic, but 2017 was pretty good too with the Hamilton Vettel incident. But in 2018 you had the Red Bulls crashing, you had Bottas' puncture, and all of that, so it's going to be very interesting this weekend, hopefully. And well, yes, chaos, chaos, and more chaos. That's what we want to see. And I believe that Nicole adds to that we need Spa 1998 levels of chaos and have a midfield team as 1 and 2. Maybe 1 and 2, maybe a little bit optimistic there for a midfield team, like Racing Point maybe, but we'll have to see. But I am also hoping for lots of chaos this weekend. And then after Josh, we're going to go to Bassy Boy, who says Honda making the podium, so we have to assume that would be Red Bull or Toro Rosso. A mega crash, drivers out okay of course, and Leclerc given a proper chance. So obviously Honda making the podium, we have already had that this season with Verstappen getting the podium a couple of times. And then a mega crash, well, that's quite likely in Baku, and I reckon, now that it's easy for the cars to follow each other, the chances of a crash may have increased. I'm not 100% sure on that, but you never know, the crash is possibly more likely this weekend. And the Leclerc given a proper chance, I would love to see that happen, but I think the way it's going, Vettel is the number 1 driver of Ferrari, unfortunately. We then come to Rory, who says Ferrari to be competent for once with a strategy, Gasly to drive faster than Katainen, and Renault to finish the race with both cars. Well, let's be honest, Ferrari has spent the last 5 years being not very competent at all with the strategy, so them being competent is probably unlikely, but you never know. I think it is going to be quite a close race at the front. I can see the Mercedes and the Ferraris being very close on track, so obviously strategy is going to be key. And then Gasly to drive faster than Katainen. I'm sure you'll know who Katainen is. Gasly to drive faster than Katainen. It could be optimistic, that one, but seriously, I hope Gasly starts to improve. And I want to ask you guys, how long do you think until Gasly is maybe kicked out of Red Bull if he continues to not really perform very well? And Renault to finish the race with both cars. I mean, it hasn't happened yet, but Ricciardo is normally pretty good around Baku. So I would hope for Renault to do well this weekend. And then Chip says, not a demolition derby. Fun as it is, F1 should not be about that. So that's very much, I guess, disagreeing with what Josh said about wanting chaos, chaos, and more chaos. And then best ever result for the Clerks, that would obviously be P1 or P2. Probably P1 would be pretty awesome. And Kimi to finish best of the rest. I would say that's pretty good, but I reckon best of the rest could be higher than P7 this weekend, because I reckon at least one of the normal top 6 are not going to finish the race. And I reckon that'd be pretty good. And Atishu also says, Atishu here says demolition derby all day in response to that, so it does want to see some kind of crazy Grand Prix. And going now back to Nicole, he says he wants a crazy race, McLaren in the points, and Gasly on the podium. Well, I guess a crazy race would probably help McLaren get into the points, both McLarens, so I think there may not be space for both McLarens in the points at the moment. And then Gasly on the podium, I reckon we're going to need a high attrition rate amongst the top runners for that to realistically happen. Then again, you don't know, maybe Gasly will start to perform this weekend. We're then going to have a look at Zebi, who says P1 for Hamilton, P2 for Leclerc, and someone to hit someone else into turn 1 after the long start straight in the race. But I reckon there's bound to be an incident to turn 1 like there was last season with the Red Bulls, of course. And I reckon it could be pretty good. And do you any of you guys on here reckon any of the top guys are going to be retiring from the Grand Prix this weekend? Next we're going to go to Robbie, who says to the clerk to take his well-deserved first F1 win at Baku. But we know he did fantastically in Formula 2 a couple of years ago, and then got his first ever F1 points in Baku last season for Sauber, so you never know. It seems to be a track he's good at. Norris and Sainz finishing the points for McLaren and make up for their bad luck at China. Yeah, McLaren did have a poor race at China, so we'd hopefully have them doing well this weekend. I want that to happen too. And Verstappen to finish second, beating Vettel and both Mercedes. Time for the run of Mercedes 1-2 finishes to end. So you want Leclerc first and Verstappen second. Well, I'm not sure that's going to happen. I think Mercedes are still going to be up there, and Vettel as well, providing he doesn't spin again. So it'll be an interesting one. Then the F1 debate show says 1. A competitive race, 2. Someone else to appear on the podium like in 16, 17 and 18, and a race where we're not talking about the failure of Ferrari and Vettel. But seriously, Ferrari and Vettel has been particularly poor this season, I would say. A few spins, as we know, and Ferrari's strategy has not been on point at all. And I reckon they need to start to make something good happen at Baku, otherwise they risk falling very far behind in constructors. And as for someone else finishing on the podium, the F1 debate show reckons it could be Daniel Ricciardo, as he has been a regular before, but obviously in the Renault it'd be a shock. But even Nico Hülkenberg too, so we have to see what happens there, I guess. And finally, and this is a shorter video than last time, Tissue Heroes again says a mega crash, no one getting hurt of course, which then causes strategic chaos. The underdogs do really well in a four-way battle for the win, with a rookie, probably Charles Leclerc, coming out on top. Although I am a Hamilton fanboy, unlike me then, so I wouldn't mind him winning again. So I guess that really sums up what I personally would think about that. I want to see an exciting race, or maybe some crashes. Obviously crashes where no one gets hurt. But then again, if Hamilton won the race, personally, I wouldn't complain. So there you go, guys. Tell me in the comments, if you didn't tell me on here, who you think is going to be good at the weekend's Azerbaijan Grand Prix. And I'll see you guys next week for another episode of I Asked Twitter.